fake it through the day with some help from Johnny Walker Red. Send the poison rain down the drain to put bad thoughts in my head. The 2 tickets torn in half.
Welcome to West Point. The purpose of these meetings is to inform people about homelessness. In all of our religions, all of the Western religions, we find references to homelessness. Amos in the Old Testament and Jesus in the New Testament said, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, help those who need help. And in the beginning, for the first 1,300 years or so AD, the homeless were actually very well taken care of. The church also did a very good job. That was the golden age for the homeless. But then we get to 1349, and people were very much afraid of vagrants, of people who were on the move, because they knew somehow that they carried the plague. And people became very wary of strangers and very wary of those on the move. The vagrancy laws over the years changed dramatically, and there were all sorts of new definitions. As you can see, unemployed workers, lusty rogues, shiftless beggars, jugglers, minstrels, and thieves. And so it was for the next 500 years, the government took over care of the homeless. In England, we had what were called bridewell houses. And these later became the workhouses that you hear referred to in Dickens and in other literature of the time. They did some good, but more often than not, there were meager servings. And this is where the government found a niche, but did not fulfill that niche well.
Tell me, when did you sleep last night?
By 1800, we had become an industrialized society. From 1880 to 1970, vagrancy was primarily the product of this industrialized society, which from time to time went through depressions and threw a lot of people out of work, and these became the vagrants of those periods. Still during this period, the government was primarily the responsible party for the homeless. And all throughout this period, those people who were homeless were blamed for it. By 1975, that's a watershed year because a survey in that year showed that for the first time, a slim majority of the American population no longer blamed the victim. More and more people began to realize homelessness could happen to anybody. Now let's look at New York City as a microcosm, because it truly was the leader for the next several years in all things having to do with homelessness. Beginning in 1970, we moved from an industrialized society to a service economy. And many of those who were left out of that economy were subjected to poverty, AIDS, and drugs, all of which are both a major cause and result of homelessness. Then in 1972, something special happened. Investigative reporter Geraldo Rivera went into Willowbrook. Willowbrook was a hellhole, and those of you who have seen the pictures of naked children, 50 naked children per room, rooms and children covered in filth and feces, it brought a tremendous outcry to close these places down, these mental hospitals. Geraldo, being an attorney, he sued New York State on behalf of all the homeless. And Hugh Carey took action, and he could have just cleaned up Willowbrook. And he said, we have to set up supportive housing in communities. Now, it was the right idea, it was a great idea, and Hugh Carey, still to this day, believes that was his best idea during his administration. But what happened was, over the next few years, New York State went from having 28,000 people in mental illness hospitals to having 3,000. Those 25,000, most of them were put out on the street. And The supportive housing that was supposed to be created was slow in coming. In 1995, Praxis was founded, and Praxis was founded on the basis and the belief that nonprofits could do the job better than for-profits and government in handling the homeless. And that actually proved to be the case. It was the first and largest such agency and remains the largest such agency in New York. Praxis's mission is to stabilize chronically homeless individuals with HIV/AIDS and other special needs through clean and safe housing, and to provide services that lead to recovery, stability, and independence. And in the beginning, Praxis provided housing plus some very essential but not a lot of services. Today, our services, as a minimum, include food, clothing, and shelter for our clients, counseling, case management, vocational training, independent living skills, medical services, and housing placement. So we wrap the client in services, and this is the one thing that truly works. You provide on-site services, wrap the clients in services, and help them to progress toward independent living. We work with clients with whom other organizations are unable to work. We're the most cost-effective, highest service provider in New York City. Prison in New York costs $150 a day. Emergency hospitalization, $500 a day. Praxis costs $54.50 a day per client. It's very important to know your cost because you can work hard then on making sure that you're providing the very best service you can at that price. So we provide housing for people for roughly 180 days. We have a lot of work to do in those 180 days, but we work hard at it. And with this brunch, we kick off our first outreach meeting, and that is, again, to get the word out to people about homelessness, that it is truly something that can happen to any one of us, that together we can solve this problem.